Welcome everyone to another edition of Conversations in the Workplace featuring Lori Reichel Howe with Conversations of the Workplace. It's her business name. And I am Denise O'Malley, the founder of You Define Wellness. And we do these every single month because we know that conversations in the workplace, there's always some trial that is going on. And we are actually recording this for the library at youdefinewellness.com. I have our website up right now. You can find all previous recordings and this one by the end of today under the YDW recorded, and just go to the occupational dimension. But while you're there, take a look at all the videos that we have because it's really pretty amazing what we have out there. One of the reasons why I wanted to have this screen up today is I want to let you know about something we have going on. So at You Define Wellness, we do events twice a year. We have an event coming up on August 27th and 28th. We're really excited about it. We have 3 tracks over 2 days. You don't have to attend all two days. Just pick and choose what works for you. But the very first track that we have that we are at Transitions 2021 will be for human resource professionals. It's a half day. It's actually about 3 hours long. We're bringing in experts to support the human resources professional because wellness is not just physical fitness, nutrition, mental health, and financial wellness, which is what we see in the corporate environment all the time. It's so much more. It's things like this, where it's about conversations in the workplace. We have experts coming in who will be sharing resources and advice and panel discussions and a fantastic program from a keynote speaker. And you know what? Lori's going to be on our panel as well. And so we're really excited to have her be a part of it. And we just invite you to go to our website at youdefinewellness.com, hit that purple button that was at the top that said Transitions 2021, and go view what we have. This is a free event. We normally would be marketing it for $69 to attend for all 3 tracks and all 2 days. And you know what's really going to be fun is we're going to have an experiential wellness fair both days. And that is so much fun. I haven't seen anybody else do it before. And so we invite you to come over here and take a look at the schedule. And if you have any questions, just reach out to us on that Contact Us button that's at the top of the event homepage. Now, that being said, I have to tell you, conversations in the workplace every single month is one of my favorite things to do because Lori Reichel Howe is the expert in delivering the guidance that you need on a daily basis to work through some of those really difficult conversations. We've done things on gossip. We've done things on managing your boss. This one today is what is our topic today, Lori? Help me with this one.
Well, it is creating a culture of accountability and not excuses. We did how to deal with blame last month, and now how to, when people give excuses, how to move them to taking responsibility.
And I think that is a great transition, but I do want to say Lori has a great deal of experience as she is a sought after speaker for the Society for Human Resource Management. She has worked with a number of large organizations over the years. She knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing, and this is a treat for everyone. So with that being said, Lori, I am turning it over to you.
Okay, then I am taking the screen and I am bringing up my PowerPoint, and you should be seeing it shortly.
There you
go. Are we good?
We're all good.
Oh, fabulous. So I will minimize my little, the boxes that I have opened up. And let's jump in. Oh, let me see. I think I had you on the last slide. Now we're on the first. So we are good to go. And welcome to creating a culture of accountability, not excuses. And whether you manage a team or if you're just a member of a team, it doesn't take long to discover that with certain people, could be even family members, excuses are as predictable as clockwork. And there's nothing more frustrating than investing energy and time into a project just to have a team member use an excuse to skirt their responsibility. And excuses such as, I didn't have time, or my plate was full. Maybe I never learned how to, or the famous, hold on, everyone's favorite, what project? Well, George Washington Carver said this about excuses: 99% of all failures come from people who have a habit of making excuses. And I have personally observed that both excuses pals around with blame, and it positions people on a pathway to failure. And it's the way you respond to excuses that will determine your success and failure, along with that of your team and organization. So, who am I? Why am I speaking on this topic? Well, as Denise said, I am Lori Reichel Howe, and I'm founder of Conversations in the Workplace. So you can see some of my bullets that tell you things that I do. But in a nutshell, I equip professionals, be it managers, teams, business professionals, how to have what I call safe conversations. By that, I mean transformative dialogue that uncovers those hidden workplace issues, whether those issues are communication breakdown, maybe mismanaged expectations, cultural insensitivity, or just good old-fashioned bad behavior and unending excuses. When people engage in safe conversations, they safely and respectfully address the behaviors that limit the individual's success, as well as the success of others, their team, and organization. So I'd love to give you some interaction time, and go to the chat box and tell me, what kind of excuses have you heard in your workplace? And, or you know what, first tell me, do excuses occur in your workplace? And is it never? Is it occasionally? Is it regularly? Or is it daily? So go ahead, go to your chat box. I will pull up mine, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I'm hearing yes, occasionally. So, and I know different workplaces are different. Okay, and I'm hearing it sounds like a majority of people today are that they are happening occasionally. So I would love to hear from you. What kind of, go ahead, tell me some of the excuses. Oh, I'm going a little too fast. What kind of excuses have you heard? I'd love to hear some examples. Oh, I got slammed with another project. Okay. Common. People, too many things on my plate. I've been sick, didn't get to it. Oh, yeah, my child was sick. So, and my email got buried. Okay, isn't it interesting how sometimes for the individual giving the excuse, it's a reason, and for the individual receiving the excuse, it's an excuse, not a reason. Oh my gosh, my dog was sick. Okay, when I was a teacher, I actually had a student who said, my dog ate my homework, and it really happened. What though the conversation needed to be about is, whose responsibility was it to put the homework in a backpack, not leave it somewhere where the dog could get to it? So, okay, thank you. I get some of my best excuses from or hearing them from people who respond in the chat box. Oh, okay, we had a last minute urgent conflict. So, and one thing too that we need to go to is, well, what is the responsibility when those things happen to communicate? So thanks, some great examples there and very real. So today, what I will do is demonstrate a safe conversations communication framework for knowing how to effectively respond to excuses when they come. And when you hear excuses, discernment is needed. And discernment will allow you to identify whether excuses are skirting of responsibility, which is an accountability killer, to knowing when there are legitimate concerns and justifiable reasons. And quite often, these need to be explored in order to identify the underlying issues or problems that need to be addressed. While we cannot always stop certain things from happening, we still do own responsibility of communicating, letting those things be known, and even giving backup plans. And when leaders and teams know how to handle accountability conversations, well, then a culture of accountability is created. Now, think about this. In your workplace, how would you describe the ability of your leaders and of teams in holding accountability conversations? So again, go to your chat box and tell me, in your workplace, are people A, B, C, or D? A, are they skilled in holding accountability conversations? They know how to do this. They either have a framework or some structure or modeling that's been given for them to hold those. Or are you B, people are somewhat skilled in holding accountability conversations? Or is it C, they completely lack the skill in holding accountability conversations? Or D, are people unclear of the difference between holding someone accountable and attacking them? See, unfortunately, in our culture and workplace, there are many leaders who don't even know the difference between holding someone accountable and actually attacking them. So I'd love to hear from you, people in your workplace. Okay, and we've got a D. People are absolutely unclear of even the difference between accountability and attack. We have people lacking the skill. So, and again, another lacking the skill. And I'm not surprised, because quite often, and organizations will even say they have the value of accountability. But when I ask them what they have done to train people to have accountability conversations, they're really speechless. They say, well, we just expect it. And if you have a culture where accountability is a value, then you've needed to have leaders as well as other employees trained in how to have these, and they've needed to have some practice in having them because it's a developed skill. And when your leadership models those and holds those well, then everybody is receiving examples of how to have them. Telling people and expecting them, well, you know what? It's not enough. People need to know how to reframe excuses to taking responsibility. And they need to see that leaders are doing that and learning from them, so that becomes a model. So anyway, today we are going to see how a manager named Sophie on the right, who is using my Safe Conversations communication framework and holding an accountability conversation with a team member named Olivia, who is on the left. And in this scenario, Sophie wants Olivia to abandon an excuse in order to take responsibility. So this is going to, Sophie is going to get, she wants Olivia to take responsibility because she sees that Olivia is stuck in giving an excuse. And what she wants her to do is mentally transition from what she can't do to what she can do, example, problem solving. She also wants Olivia to recognize action steps that she can take to move a project forward, not just to stay stuck in excuse. Now, like good managers, Sophie checks in with her team members and she connects with them regularly and consistently, as well as she's in an ongoing basis obtaining status update. So while people have assigned a task, she is checking in while the task is being worked on and getting some updates. That way, if problems break down, she's not waiting till the day before or the day that a deadline is needed and expected to get the update. So Sophie also, she recognizes that if the only time managers communicate with team members is when they need something from them, that they will never build an effective team. So here's how she checks in. And I'm going to do the verbiage that the dialogue that Sophie will be having with Olivia. And then thank you. I know Denise is going to play Olivia's role. So you'll hear discussion happening back and forth. So again, here I am checking in on Olivia. Olivia, this has got to be a busy week for you with both the staff and executive training curriculums due on Friday. How are you progressing?
You know, I realized last week that the deadline for completing both curriculums just wasn't realistic. Because of this, I decided to focus all my time finishing the executive training curriculum and letting the staff curriculum slide.
Okay, I'm going to do a little break here. And here is my safe conversation communication framework. And today, the first step is going to be addressing the performance gap. In this case, what Sophie had expected from Olivia versus what she's observing or demonstrating. So what we'll need to do, and what Sophie will need to do, is describe the gap between what she was expecting from Olivia to what she is getting from Olivia, what the person didn't do, and ensuring that the expectation is made clear. Now, tell me, from this excuse, I realized last week that the deadline wasn't realistic. So I've decided to spend all of my time just finishing the executive training curriculum and letting the staff curriculum slide. Tell me, what do you believe are the performance gaps that Sophie needs to respond to? And whoops, I think I'm
Lost your slides.
okay. I'll get us back in there. Let me.
We're good now.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Tell me, what are the performance gaps that you see that Sophie will need to discuss with Olivia? Dang it, I just did that again.
That gives us time to type.
Okay, good. And then what I need to do is, I don't want to leave meeting. How do I get back?
Under share screen.
Oh, nope. I just had to click on it.
And we don't see your slides, Lori.
Oh, okay. Now I'm seeing my presenter screen. So let me, okay, gang, go ahead, put in your, the performance concerns. And then Denise, I am sorry, use slideshow. I am seeing,
Are you hitting share screen?
I don't see it.
Uh, If
Let
you
me,
see the leave meeting, you should see share screen.
yeah, I am not seeing anything,
It
but
may be a Zoom fluke that's going on.
You know what? Did you are still not seeing my slides?
I'm still not seeing your slides. Why don't you close out your PowerPoint and then reopen it?
Um, I'm sorry, but all I know is I will end show. And there we go. And okay, I ended show and now I am back to portion of screen and share.
We can see your desktop.
Okay, and so now I think what I can do is, oh, thanks for hanging in with me, gang. I think presenter view.
There we
Okay,
go. We're good.
are we back on?
We're good.
Okay,
Okay, so we have some performance gaps in the chat box.
okay. I'm going to have you read those if you
Sure.
would.
You know what it boils down to is, efficient time management, better communication, better communication on time commitments and promises made.
Okay, great, great. And what I have, Sophie's thinking is right along with that. She realizes there are three issues that she wants to address. One, as you've nailed it, failure to communicate that her deadline is at risk and that it can't be met. And so that'll be the first one. The unmet deadline, again, and then also the assumption that it's okay to let a project slide, to go ahead and make the decision to do that, because that's not one that Sophie believes that is Olivia's choice to make. So watch how Sophie, the first issue she is going to address is her failure to communicate. So here we go. Olivia, I'm disappointed that you failed to communicate with me as soon as you realized that your deadline was at risk. Here's what you expected. I expect team members to inform me immediately when a deadline is at risk. Then she's going to do the impact, meaning what are the consequences, the negative impact on the team. Delaying communication with me increases the challenge and the negative impact on me and the team. Now, regarding the missed deadline and making a personal decision to let the project slide, listen to how Sophie describes the gap. So this is the other. Now, this is the missed deadline and the personal decision. So again, the gap. I'm also disappointed to hear that you made the decision to let the staff training curriculum slide. In this situation, I expected that you would ask if the due date is flexible or even suggest letting the curriculum slide. But this is not a decision for you to make. It is my decision. Training funds will not be given without a curriculum review, and failure to turn in a curriculum means no staff training next year, decreased funds for trainers' salary. So now what's the impact, including how we need to move forward? If funding is to be secured, the staff curriculum needs to be completed and available for review in 3 days. Now watch, before Sophie moves to problem solving, she wants to understand what was behind Olivia's thinking and decision. Now, rest assured, sometimes when you've got a deadline, you can't stop right then and do a lot of reflecting on why this problem happened. But in this case, Sophie does believe that we can talk about it right now, and then we're going to make a plan moving forward. So here are some, she's going to ask questions in order to get a deeper understanding. This is going to allow her to dig in, get to the root and the cause of the problem. So asking questions. Here are a number of questions that she will ask and how she leads up to being able to ask those questions. Olivia, I want you to reflect on your thoughts, decisions, and actions regarding this curriculum project. I believe that in doing so, you will increase your success as well as our effectiveness in moving forward in the future. So, making it safe, help me to understand your thinking and decision in not communicating with me. She'll wait. They'll have some discussion around that. Then another question. Tell me your thinking and decision on letting the training slide. Notice here Sophie doesn't go to lecturing her, but she poses herself as curious and is trying to understand what was the thinking so that she can really do some apprenticing and training Olivia and ensuring this doesn't happen, and also ensuring that Olivia responds differently in the future. Once Olivia has been able to answer those questions, then she wants to determine and assess, if she's really learned from this experience. So, Olivia, tell me, what have you discovered and what do you know now that you didn't know before? And really, this is a matter of getting some accountability. What information did you need that you didn't have before? And Sophie is doing this because, as you may have detected, Olivia is new on the team. And so she really sees a need to get some training and set some new working standards in place. So let's move to a chat box. And I'd love, before I go any further, let me hear your thoughts on this content, on the steps that Sophie has implemented. Let me know what's resonating with you. What made sense, even maybe in regards to performance gaps, impact, and asking questions. So if you would go to your chat box, and love to know what you're thinking. Okay, and I hear, I would be saying, I take responsibility for not meeting the deadline, but it would have been helpful to understand the impact prior to starting the project. Whoa, okay. And a great comment, because part of being a strong leader is also being a learner and being open to realizing how I could do things differently and better. So in this case, what Sophie has recognized is that Olivia really needed more information, and she launched her into a project. Matter of fact, even having her take on two. Now, Sophie was, to give some background information, Sophie was hesitant on having Olivia do both, but Olivia had said, you know what, when I do the first one, the executive training, then it won't take much to retweak the staff one. And so definitely, if there was a concern, Sophie probably needed to check in even earlier. Okay, great, great feedbacking. Okay, let's move forward. And then Sophie is going to move the conversation forward. They've both recognized that they needed to do things a little bit differently and make some changes moving forward. And now they're going to move into brainstorming solutions and watch how Sophie asks Olivia questions that will help Olivia feel empowered and to step up to figuring out how we can move forward, solve this problem, get that deadline met. Here she starts with, again, asking questions. While it may not be possible for you to independently complete the training curriculum by Friday, what's possible if you were to engage the team in completing the staff training curriculum? And with this, Denise, if you'll step in.
Absolutely. Since they wouldn't have to create the content, they simply need to make modifications from the executive training curriculum I've already created, basically matching it to a different audience. And I believe the deadline could be met.
Okay, now we see her being a visionary. Okay, to proceed forward, we need a plan to recruit the team support in creating the staff training curriculum. And your ability to recommend steps for the team to effectively move forward, along with sharing available resources, would be immensely valuable. See how she engages her. And how do you recommend, Olivia, that the team would tackle this task? See how she engages her? Maybe what resources can you provide? And another question she could ask is, how do you recommend dividing up the work? Notice how not only is this an accountability conversation, but it's really turned into a coaching session. And with that, here are the different steps within my framework that Sophie implemented. And you just see the difference. It's one thing to tell people to have an accountability conversation. It's another thing to give them a communication framework and demonstrate how to have that. And moving forward, getting a commitment is not telling someone do better next time or don't let this happen again. Neither of those are good leadership. You need to be specific. People need to know what they're committing to. So watch how, here are some questions that Sophie would use to frame that. Olivia, may I count on you too? Some of the steps that Olivia recommended, she'll get an agreement moving forward for those. And one thing she could include, what kind of support do you need from me? So she's not telling her what to do, but she's willing to support her. So letting people lead, and then making sure moving forward, once Olivia has recommended steps, may I count on you to communicate with me immediately in the future, anytime a deadline is at risk. So getting a commitment for the communication, and then she's already gotten a commitment for steps taken in moving forward. So let me give you guys a minute or two to go to the chat box and give me some thoughts and reflections. What are you thinking in regards to the steps that have been modeled, just this dialogue that we've seen, particularly how Sophie has dialogued in this case? And I will open up my chat box.
So Lori, while we're waiting for comments over in the chat box, let me bring one up for you and I to talk about. So
Okay.
I could see as an employee going through and listening to this program and and them thinking, this is really great. I love it. But my boss has a problem with his accountability. How do I turn the boss around so that they are changing how they interact? Because every time something like this happens, I feel like I'm being accused and blamed for it. I mean, we've talked about this in some of our previous monthly
Yes.
topics that we've done. But I mean, really, that's the bottom line. It's accountability. It's a great circle. But how do you get your boss trained to do it?
Yeah. Good point. And that's why commonly when I work with organizations, I say, let's start with management, because they need to be comfortable not only holding these accountability conversations, but realizing that when people bring things up, that their leadership, effective leadership, is responding to concerns. And there's a humility in that. Could I be doing things different that would increase my success and others? So, one thing that would be great for people to do is go back to the earlier session that I did on managing up.
Mhm.
And core of that was, how do you make it safe to talk to someone who is you report to, someone who is has the power to make sure you get a paycheck and make your mortgage payment. So making it safe would be important to open it up with why you are having this conversation, and the positive wants, what you want for your boss, how you believe he or she, they could become more effective. And so let me give you an example of this. And that is, hey, Denise, I would love to talk to you about something that I've noticed that I think if we talked about it, it's possible that that would increase not only your success, but increase the effectiveness of our working relationship. You might even want to be vulnerable and say, sometimes it can be awkward talking to your boss about something that I believe is hindering our success and your success. But I believe that if we build a relationship where we can make it safe to talk about it, we're both going to do better. So you could be vulnerable. Always think about ROI, return on investment. How will this support your boss's success? You could also tie in with, hey, boss, the more successful you are, the more successful I am. So when I see something that's limiting your success, I want to bring it up to you because I want you to be more effective. So building, trust, you really build trust by having those kind of conversations. So anyway, in that managing up, I gave a number of strategies called for making it safe. And know that 70% of your boss's defensiveness can be diminished by effectively communicating your intention and positive wants. So great
Fantastic.
question.
Got a great comment in the chat box.
Oh, okay. Tell you what, can I have you read that?
You bet. It says, I like the way Sophie is not attacking Olivia and involving her in the resolution process. Olivia should feel empowered by this conversation rather than deflated. And I agree with that as well.
And that is always the goal.
Mhm.
What is hard is learning. It's hard to keep your emotions because one, Sophie's going to be upset that, she's not been communicated. They now have 3 days, but she's learned, and it's usually through the coaching, the practicing, in automatically having a framework that you're comfortable, that becomes a knee-jerk instinct to help people step up instead of attacking. But no, there is that human instinct when we feel like our goals are blocked and when we feel like somebody has not communicated with us, we get frustrated. And so how do you have just a learned strategy? Sometimes I've found that coaching also helps people to make those strategies learned and more instinctive so that they don't fall into natural human patterns and habits. So thank you. Great comment.
Yeah.
Appreciate that feedback.
And I think there's another component of all of this by having as a manager, having this approach and to resolve this issue of this missed deadline that was
Mhm.
really crucial, the next deadline will not be missed.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes. And I suspect Sophie will probably check in earlier next time, and
Yeah,
Olivia will have more information, and that will guide her through. And that's because they talked about it.
yeah,
So, quite often we want to get things taken care of, but unless we are spending time looking at how are we working, we will keep making the same, we'll find ourselves continually dealing with the same problems and not getting them resolved. That's how burnout happens. So that's why taking the time to get to the root of problems really is what makes us effective in moving forward. It does take time. I also think it takes skill in knowing how to do that. And that framework can really help save time because you narrow into core issues. So now, when in the process of exploring excuses, you discover that there are legitimate concerns and justifiable reasons, then the framework will look similar, but in some cases different. You'll notice here how, while you still talk about the performance gap, you move the conversation to what happened, what didn't happen, and what were the unmet needs. And then you identify what's contributed to it. In this case, in this case, Sophie contributed in that she didn't give Olivia some needed information. Olivia contributed by deciding she could make the deadline slip, which wasn't the case. She also took on too much, too much. One she could handle. The second one, she really needed to get the team to engage in that. So, but exploring legitimate concerns, I'm afraid that's an entire additional webinar on that. And so, but this framework works very similar, and you can see how the framework for one really transfers off. And Denise and everyone on today, I want to be realistic. Sometimes a single conversation can get to the root of a problem and can really turn around, transform a working relationships. Even so, more commonly, a single conversation becomes the beginning of a number of conversations. Even so, learning how to implement a safe conversations communication framework, it's the foundational first step in having, whether it be a single conversation or a number of conversations. So I do want you to know that safe conversation skills, they are learnable, and it is possible. And it's possible, I know, because I've trained organizations, business leaders, how to have them. So if that's of interest to you, and you want to learn, or you want your organization to learn how to reframe blame to taking responsibility, if you want you yourself or your team or organization to learn how to build more positive working relationships, well, you do this by safely addressing, talking about the behaviors that break down working relationships, getting those tune-ups. So I've heard it said, and I believe it's true, that any organization is shaped by the worst behavior that leaders and employees are willing to tolerate. So, but how do we make it safe to talk about those and do it in a safe, respectable way? And it's not enough for us to know that problems exist or to tell people you have the expectation that they deal with them. People need to know how. They need to know a structure and a framework for doing this. And when people are able to safely hold those accountability conversations, well, then employee performance as well as team productivity, it's increased. And you can elevate your leadership skill to the next level, along with those you are having the accountability conversations with. And you do this by implementing a safe conversation framework in order to reframe excuses to responsibility, thereby building a culture of accountability. So if this content resonates with you, go to my website at www.conversationsintheworkplace. And if you'd like to have a 30-minute complimentary consultation with me, on the home page, under that picture, you'll see the Let's Talk button. Hit on that and schedule a 30-minute session with me. I'd love to talk with you about how you could elevate your leadership to the next level or elevate your team or organization. And if you're passionate and ready to establish a partnership to transform workplace culture, then we can talk about this. And taking a deeper dive and strategizing a plan to help you develop a safe workplace culture where people love to work and effectively work with those who are coworkers and leaders. So with that, let's move to any Q&A. If you have a question, feel free. Denise, I think we can, people can either put them in the chat box, or is it possible to just let them verbally?
Absolutely. If anybody has
Okay.
a question that they want to ask, you can certainly unmute yourself and ask them at this time. I just want to make a comment while we're talking about this is that, you know, it's the framework that you have, and I've seen it now a number of times since we've been doing these. This framework is really, really a good model that anyone who is either new to management or who feels that they could be a better manager really should be diving into and reviewing these recordings, over and over and over again, because it gives you a skill set that is going to put you ahead of all other managers in your company, from just being able to have those conversations. And employees are going to feel more rewarded and more valued as a contributor to the overall goals and success of the organization. So I'm delighted that you're sharing these frameworks with us, because I think they're just a really good model.
Thank you. I have just, again, telling people too doesn't show them how. And so what I love about the framework is it's a core. A matter of fact, and I didn't include components in the center, because when I coach people, I work with them on what they can do if the conversation breaks down, how they acknowledge concerns, how they go back to positive wants, how they contrast. It feels like someone's moving to arguing. You can step in and say, hey, I don't want to argue. I don't want to attack. What I was hoping to do was have us talk about something that I thought would really improve our working relationship. And and if you realize that this person is not in a frame of being able to talk at this moment, even knowing how you can step out of this conversation and maybe then step into it at a later time. It's not giving up, it's just taking a recess. So thank you. The framework has helped give something concrete. And in the midst of conflict, that's what we need. We don't need a pep talk, we need a skill.
You do. And I'm going to tell you that I want to share something with you that I have not shared before, and that my social media skills, conversing with people who have differing opinions than I have greatly improved from these conversations in the workplace that you've been sharing with us.
Oh.
Where, especially if it's a hot topic, and there's some hot topics we stay away from these days, right? But occasionally it'll go down that road, and I've been able to come back and say, I'm not looking for an argument with this post. If you would like to have a conversation with me where we can discuss it calmly as to what your viewpoint is so that I can understand it and share my viewpoint, so perhaps that may give some clearer understanding for you, then let's do so. Not a single
Wow.
person has taken me up on it, but
Mhm.
they've backed away from the fight.
See, because you've brought them back to respect
Yeah.
and diplomacy, and that we both have different perspectives, and their behavior should, you've set a standard. So let's talk, let's not attack. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, and it's been so valuable because these skills. I'm just trying to point out how translatable they are for other than just a verbal conversation. That, and
Mhm.
email
Oh, right.
and social media posts, we cannot convey the tone as like
Mhm.
we want to,
Yes.
and we tend, especially in social media posts, you see a lot of people posting things that they would never have the nerve to say to someone's face.
Yep.
And I can
Mhm.
tell you that at these tools actually saved a friendship with someone from high school, and I graduated a very long time ago
Wow.
because
Wow.
we were going down a different path. And she ended up coming back to me. We had a debate, a conversation on on actually Messenger, and she came back to me and she says, Denise, you're a longtime friend of mine. I value you, and because of that reason, I'm going to step away.
Wow.
And it was great. We're still Facebook friends. We don't engage with each other, but
Wow.
we didn't go
Mhm.
down that road of irreparably damaging a
Yes.
relationship. We know
Mhm.
we can go back to each other at some
Mhm.
point in the future. So you just need to know that
Yeah.
these tools
You're
work in so many different ways.
you protected a
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's really important stuff. It doesn't look like we have any comments in the chat box. Our guests are absolutely welcome to unmute themselves and ask any questions that they have out there. But in the meantime, I just want to say, Lori, you are such a valued member of You Define Wellness, the network, and you're really helping us bring forward the fact that everything that happens in a workplace has to do with well-being, everything, and it starts at the conversations and
Thank
how
you.
we handle these things. So
Thank you.
we're delighted you're going to be with us for Transitions 2021 next month
Mhm.
and sharing
Mhm.
your expertise on the panel with our friend Eric Kershak from our
Yes.
hot seat as
Dear
well.
friend.
A number
Mhm.
of other people that we have coming to it. So we're just delighted to have you be a part of it.
Well,
Next month, we're going to be doing something really fun, and that is it's questions and answers instead of a set presentation. So we're inviting anyone who is watching this as a recording or with us live. If you have an issue going on at the workplace that you just don't know how you really want to handle it, submit it to us if you can ahead of time so that we can make sure that we ask that question of Lori, because we're going to spend the entire time doing questions and answers. And anytime we open it up for questions, we're always regretting the fact that we typically don't have the
Mhm.
recording going at the time
Mhm.
because those
Mhm.
questions are so deep and so good. And
Yes.
hey, you're going to have the expert available to you for some free consultation and a group setting. So that being said, it doesn't look like we have any written questions. So I'm going to go ahead and end this recording in just a quick second. But I want to thank all of you who are watching it as on a recording. Wherever you found it, there's a bunch more. Go to our YouTube channel or go to the YDW recorded section of our website, which I showed at the very beginning. You will see, I've lost count. There's got to be more than 100 videos that we have out there that are designed to help support you as you are on your healthy living journey, whether it be at work or at home. And so please reach out for that. With that being said, thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.